Crazy Friday. Got a little bit of a crash going on. Welcome, TGIF. We used to say, thank God it's Friday. Let me look and see if we're coming in okay over on X real quick, and hopefully YouTube as well. Let's see here. Profile, open live video. Testing the audio. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're over there. Let me do a little GM to get things started. Good morning in the chat. And anyway, yeah, sorry, a couple minutes late. I had a crazy morning with all the trades and stuff because we had this crash. And listen, nothing really, nothing really surprising. Let's take a look at what the markets where they actually open. They've now been open for 9 minutes. They were looking, the futures were, NASDAQ was down about 3/4 of a point. Dow and S&P looking to open down about 1/2 point. Let's see what they actually did. Yep, the NASDAQ looks like it opened down 0.61. God, it looks pretty close. Well, let's see. Let's not look at the futures. Let's look. Actually, that was the futures. Sorry. Here, let me refresh it. Sorry. Let's see where we're actually at. That was still showing us the futures. I thought it had opened up about the same place. Yeah, pretty. Let's look. NASDAQ looks like it's down 0.84, slightly worse than the futures were indicating about a half hour ago. The Dow was only looking to open up down about 0.41. It's down 0.9. So the market's initially opening up a little worse than it was appearing to originally. But listen, we have global chaos, as the title says, or the thumbnail says. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of fake news out there. Don't have too long today, so we'll kind of have to talk fast once you look at that. Yeah, S&P down 0.65. Let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trading at 66,423, down 4.1% for the day. We're going to get affected when the traditional market crashed. Traditional market lost $1 trillion yesterday. So to put it in perspective, Ethereum 1984, down 4.2%. XRP $1.338, it's down 2.4%, and Solana is down 5% at 83.05. So first off, markets ain't uncertainty. We have nothing but uncertainty right now. Of course, Trump had the 10-day pause yesterday, said it was at the request of Iran. So that kind of helped the markets a little bit. But anyway, not enough. They continued to crash. Well, because mixed messages yesterday, actually. The message in the morning and then later were two different, completely about faces. So anyway, bottom line is we can see it's confusing. There's no definitive end in sight. Stuff keeps happening. There's a lot of fake news out there as far as fake videos, the whole 9 yards. But bottom line is there's global uncertainty. The markets hate that. Bitcoin and crypto are going to get taken down with the TradFi markets. And also there's a lot of liquidity down around that low 60,000 mark. So, they're going to go after that. The market makers, the exchanges, traders, whoever they are going to go after that. And we got a Friday and we got Saturday, Sunday, low liquidity. So unless there's some really good news, I expect us just to kind of stay around here, maybe bleed out a little. Though I could see Bitcoin bouncing a little even because over the weekend or even today, because look, the regular market drops not even 1%. Of course, they dropped, a couple points yesterday, but we're down almost 5%. So I believe that maybe we'll see a little bit of a bounce, but I don't expect anything great until we get some good news here. But let's look at the news. Not quite as much news today. Like I say, short and stream, I'm going to have to hit it kind of hard here, or kind of fast. Yeah, $1 trillion wiped out yesterday. Almost the whole market cap of Bitcoin. This morning on that, when we had that wick down on Bitcoin, $258 million was liquidated in 4 hours. Bitcoin alone, traders losing 118 million. Once again, high leverage traders. If you don't know what you're doing, don't fly planes, don't shoot guns, don't trade leverage. If you know what you're doing and you know how to do your risk reward, that's one thing. Even then, I suggest you just kind of dollar cost average and you just kind of, invest, not trade. But anyway, and there's once again a lot of liquidity down around the low 60s. I expect the market makers to flush that out before we move higher. But also we have a global conflict going on. ICE, which is Intercontinental Exchange, they own New York Stock Exchange and a bunch of other major exchanges throughout the world. They announced a strategic investment of up to $2 billion in prediction market platform Polymarket. Seems like Polymarket and Kalshi. Seems like Kalshi's been taking the forefront recently, but those two are really doing good things. So they're going to invest in that. We use it all the time on this show for information. And ARK Investments, Kathy Wood, she was talking yesterday. She said she actually uses it. Their analysts use it to help predict where the market's going and buying and selling and stuff. We use it. We use it at our fund to understand what the trends are, or what the sentiment is, and pretty accurate information. Mario Nafal said this, and I was thinking about it. He's like, this might be the most fake war ever recorded. In just 2 weeks, over 110 AI-generated war videos and images were identified. Fake explosions, fake deaths, fake attacks that never happened. One single fake missile clip spread across 300 plus platforms and pulled in tens of millions of views. Anyone can create this in minutes, and most people can't tell the difference. I saw today, they just right before I started the show, they claimed to have shot down an F-16 over Tehran. I don't know. Is that fake or true? Who knows? You can actually see movies and videos of it, and you still can't believe it. And they're using old war clips and stuff. I have an example of one here in a minute. We talked about this yesterday. It was the biggest news I thought of yesterday. Some of the biggest news ever. But Fannie Mae, which processes trillions and trillions of dollars in mortgages on that they were going to accept Bitcoin. But what's cool is they did it on CNBC. So CNBC announced live on TV, mortgage giant Fannie Mae will now accept Bitcoin. The borrower doesn't have to sell their crypto, just like any other mortgage. So huge news, and now it's getting out there on the mainstream financial media. So big news, man, big news. We talked yesterday about Mara selling like a bunch of their Bitcoin, which they have to do. They got bills. Also, a lot of these guys are starting to do some data centers or switching over to data centers. It's more profitable. But either way, with that big Mara sale, Jack Mahler's 21 Capital, now the second largest Bitcoin holder with 43,513 Bitcoin. So shout out to Jack, always out there doing God's work, talking about Bitcoin. He's a young kid that always wearing the hoodie. Looks like he's about 15. But I'm sure he's in his mid to late 20s. But anyway, shout out to Jack and Mahler. Okay, this is a perfect example. Breaking. Iran attacked a container ship sailing under the flag of the Marshall Islands while attempting to pass through the Straits of Hormuz. Now, I believe that probably happened. But when you look at this, look at how those containers are just melted, right? I wonder if this was the one that was hit a couple weeks ago that was continuing to burn, right? I don't know, but maybe this is, but you don't know. I could literally recreate that with, I've seen AI ones of two container ships colliding and all the containers falling, totally AI generated. But I don't think this is AI generated, but it could be. But anyway, once again, either way, I think that's real news that attack, they're basically the Straits of Hormuz shut down till it gets sorted. This is going to continue. Tether, we talked, I think, yesterday, the day before, Tether was going to hire one of the big four accounting firms to do an audit. Turns out they hired KPMG. That's who we used to open when I ran a public internet company. That's who we used, KPMG. They're one of the big four global auditing accounting firm. They also hired this company, PwC, as it prepares for fundraising and U.S. expansion under new stablecoin regulations. Positive step for transparent institutional credibility across the broader crypto industry. They're a massive company, the biggest stablecoin by far, though. USDC is starting to gain ground because of this. I'm sure they want to be compliant if they can and have people trust them. But they're a money-making machine, right? One of the most profitable companies. And they may even be looking to go public, in which case you need audited books. This dipshit kid clavicular or whatever, I only know who he was because he was talking about Bitcoin, right? Saying it was a scam and should have listened to him, whatever. So anyway, that's the only reason I even know who he was. I saw that clip, and who knows here, but basically shown here. First off, man, I would not be wanting to stand in that boat with all those guys. It's so easy to get shot. It just, who knows? Maybe I'm not seeing him do anything necessarily crazy, but he's kind of standing behind his friend. If he fell down or whatever in a boat, could shoot someone. Got to be damn careful when you're shooting pistols. But anyway, the problem, if this is a real video, is alligator season. I think they're supposedly shooting an alligator. Now, when you hunt alligators or whatever, they typically put a bait out there and hook them, and then they just shoot them. Remember the Trudum guy? There was a video about guys during gator season, but the gator season is usually like a couple weeks or a month, around November, like end of August to 1st of November. Otherwise, they can be having babies and stuff. It's a limited season, and you can't just shoot. I don't even know if you can, I know you can't use pistols. So you're breaking all kinds of laws here. So they said Kick banned him. He was arrested. Now he faces felony charge, possible 5-year state imprisonment. I don't know if this is any true, but it looks, this could all be just BS, but could be a fake alligator. But if he's really shooting an alligator and we're out of season, yeah, it's just a bad look. Stupid, But anyway, he maybe, who knows? It may be all set up for him to get more attention. But obviously, my only thing is he's a dipshit when it comes to Bitcoin, and doesn't seem too smart when it comes to alligators and using fire. And they're just shooting them as fast as they can. How easy is it as a boat to fall over? Probably why they won't let you use pistols in boats to hunt alligators. It's just so easy to fall and shoot someone. A boat's unstable. Anyway, dipshit of the day stuff. Actually, probably, got a page there, cryptos and alligators. Anyway, I only even know who this kid is because of his dumb rant about Bitcoin. I just told him to shut the hell up. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Stick to your hitting on dumb girls in bars or whatever it is that you do. So yeah, look, they're turning back ships. 3 ships, container ships, got turned around. So it's more than just oil. We know it's LNG, helium, and even some just ship stuff. So Qatar declares force majeure on LNG imports, which basically means, it's a legal term, basically means it's beyond their control. They basically said we can't supply all this big LNG contracts because they got hit with bombs. They've said it might be 5 years to build back some of this capacity. Once again, America has tons of their own natural gas, but a big part of the world relies on Qatar for their LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. You liquefy it so you can compress it in and transport it. Think of propane bottles, Australia fines Binance $6.9 million for letting regular users trade risky derivatives. So see, this is why we can no longer use Binance. You used to be able to use it with a VPN, but if the countries can prove that they didn't do enough, have full KYC and AML and all that stuff, they don't do enough, then they're liable. So this is also how the countries make money. So they're saying that Binance at some point, of course, that's nothing. Heck, U.S. fined him $4 billion. So he's probably like, that's probably like leaving a tip for CZ. But anyway, you see the challenge of decentralized versus centralized. Of course, yesterday the big news was this 10-day halt, which was after, a lot of news in the morning, seeming as if, there was no solution. Later on said you have this, said they requested it. Who knows? There's so much information. Who knows how organized the Iran government even is. But anyway, my predictions were out of there in 2 to 4 weeks. Declare victory, whatever. That is what it is. This was interesting article here. Probably true. The main negotiators there were Jared Kushner, who's married to Ivanka. That's Trump's son-in-law. And the other guy, I think they might both be Jewish. So anyway, obviously Iran didn't want to deal with them. So now it's J.D. Vance, which they said that he had a tense call with Netanyahu, arguing Israel's early prediction were wildly overconfident, may not have come close to happening. Who knows? A right-wing Israeli paper pushed a false story claiming Vance yelled at Netanyahu, which U.S. officials appeared part of America. Once again, there's two wars going on. Anyway, once again, propaganda war, social media war, fake AI war, and then the real war. Yeah, I don't know about the chat. Paige said I did realize I had to go full screen to chat. Wonder if chat works on mobile. Thanks for the alpha. I don't ever chat when I'm listening to YouTube. Oh no, you're on X. Yeah, you're on X. Yeah, I think it works. I'm sure it works on X. Yeah, in fact, I know it does because I've chatted with David Gokhstein before on the lives, but I thought you were coming to me from YouTube. I see you're on X today. So welcome, Paige. Welcome everyone else listening on X. Obviously, a lot more people tune in on X than YouTube, but happy everyone could join us. And look, it's a Friday. Probably might be a touch grass weekend. I don't know about you guys. I'm having great weather here. I'm getting ready I'm planning a Vegas/California trip. I don't know if I could do that. I might even leave tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe early next week, maybe late next week. But I'm going to do a little bit of a road trip, do some business, visit with a buddy of Paige's out there in California. So yesterday, Bitcoin saw the largest ETFs outflows in 3 weeks, 171 million. Look, when the market panics, people are going to sell their risk assets. People get scared or they got to pay to cover, calls or whatever. So is what it is. I don't worry too much about it. But it is an indication that is money we wouldn't have if we didn't have ETFs. South Korea's BitPlanet just doubled down on its plan to buy 10,000 more Bitcoin. That's 700,000 in Bitcoin buy demand. You don't hear much about BitPlanet, but they're basically, we have Michael Saylor here. We've got MetaPlanet in Japan. Started out with a company worth about $10 million. Now is in the hundreds of millions, buying using the Michael Saylor strategy to raise money and buy Bitcoin. Now, South Korea's BitPlanet. South Korea, by the way, extremely into their crypto. One of the highest crypto adoption countries in the world. I remember in 2017, they were having to take elementary kids and junior high kids' cell phones because they were buying ICOs. So anyway, shout out to BitPlanet. Hadn't heard too much about them in the past. They're looking to come out and establish themselves a real player. And once again, this is why we're here every day talking to you, showing you all the evidence of what's coming and letting you know you ought to understand Bitcoin, probably ought to be buying some Bitcoin. This from the Rand Group Solana does 116 million transactions a day. Every other major chain combined does 27 million. There's different metrics you can look at, but if you're not bullish on Solana, now you may like Ethereum better, great. That's up to you, but this is why metrics, Solana is a behemoth, right? So, I mean, just in transactions alone, and some of that's, yeah, shit coins and pump.fun, whatever. The point is they're doing that many transactions. Basically, almost 4 or 5 times the transactions of every other chain combined. Billionaire Michael Saylor just said live on CNBC, Strategy can pay its STR dividends forever. We're sitting on 50 billion in Bitcoin. And also don't forget, just because he was getting a lot of FUD last fall, they set aside 3 billion in cash just to pay these. So they have enough to pay him for 3 years just in cash, not even ever having to touch their Bitcoin. So what he's doing is he's paying a fixed 11.5%, which is just a fix. You don't get any Bitcoin in that. He takes the money and buys Bitcoin because he knows that Bitcoin on average is going to be worth 30 to 40%. So it's just another strategy they have that's called the STRC. We talked about this. Hong Kong changed the law to where if the police request, you have to give all your passwords, even if it's your phone or any encrypted device. So this just said, beware traveling to Hong Kong with the Bitcoin hardware wallet. Hong Kong has updated enforcement rules under the national security laws as of March 23rd, when he talked about it. Refusing to provide passwords or decryption assistance to police is now a criminal offense, covering all personal devices, including phones, laptops, and likely hardware wallets. This rule applies to everyone in Hong Kong, including U.S. citizens, even if only transiting through the airport. Authorities also have extended powers to seize and retain devices they claim are linked to national security investigations. So, yeah, don't go there with your hardware. Very dystopian stuff right there. And don't forget, Hong Kong's really just an extension of China now. You don't want to be in a Chinese jail. Trust me. This was cool. Coinbase commercial shows that new houses get cheaper when priced in Bitcoin over time. 2012, you need 30,000 Bitcoin to buy this house. Today, it can be yours for 5 Bitcoin. You will now be able to buy a Bitcoin with Bitcoin-backed mortgages. Even moving forward, this same thing's going to happen. So say my house, right? My wife's house, her grandma's house that she bought that I'm sitting in right now. Yeah, we're out of time, or I'd go into it. But let's say right now it's worth 7 Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin goes to 600,000, it'll only be 1 Bitcoin. So anyway, well, hey, thanks for joining me. Welcome to join me over on the GM Bitcoin Morning Show. We've been running that show for 4 years.